I am.
Mhm. Would you please stand and join me in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First on there is roll call. Kevin? She didn't tell you about the new rule? I can do it if you want me to. All right, Councilman Larson.
Yes.
Councilwoman Cox,
Present.
Councilwoman White,
Present.
Councilman Hahn,
Present.
Councilwoman Stubble,
Present.
Councilwoman Josh Hahn, Councilman Josh Hahn.
Present.
Yes. Mayor's here. We have a quorum. So moving on, we need to amend the agenda before we approve it. Then new business, item L. It'll be appoint Judy Legursky to the Housing Authority Board for the present to December 24th, 2024. That's a 1.5 year term that she's gonna finish filling out. And then on item M is appoint Dean McKee to the Housing Authority Board for full term, January 24th to December 27th. We could add those on to new business, L and M. And then we also have a change on bills and claims. Kevin highlighted it. It's on behind the first page. Crossing Threshold LLC. He's got them highlighted in green, and if we can look back about 5 pages back, it's reworks. And total amount of 9,960. And crossing the threshold was 1,128.75. We could add those two to bills and claims.
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
And a second,
Second.
got a motion by Councilwoman Cox, second by Councilwoman White. Are there any questions or concerns? Didn't want anything. Since there is none, I'll call for the question. Councilman Larson?
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay. First on our agenda is a public hearing. It's I'll open the public hearing at 6:02, it looks like. Public hearing's open. Kevin, you want to read it?
Public hearing concerning the submission of an application to the State Loan and Investment Board for a loan through the State Revolving Fund on behalf of the governing body of the city of Lander to obtain SRF funds for future city of Lander water and sewer projects in order to utilize SRF special large project funding interest rates in the amount of $45 million.
Okay. I'll open it up to the council for a comment. Council has a comment.
Mayor, I have a comment.
ahead.
I just want to say thanks to the staff for putting this kind of a package together. I've been reflecting on it. And at first blush, looking for a loan for $45 million. It's a little like, whew, it's a little scary, but in the end, when I look at the analysis you've done and the case you've made, it's a deeply fiscally responsible move for us. It's bold thinking. It's exactly the kind of thinking that we wouldn't be having problems today if Lander had been doing this kind of thinking in past decades. And so I'm really excited and enthusiastic for the staff for thinking about this, for the council for considering it. It's going to fix a lot of problems that we're facing. And we have an airtight package, I think, for making it fiscally responsible. So thank you.
I would agree with that.
Okay, public comment, is there any? Okay. Since there is none, I'm gonna close the public hearing at 6:04 PM. Public hearing's closed. Okay, next on the agenda is communication from the floor. I think I had one, Councilwoman White.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. This is a letter that was submitted by Kathleen Averill to be read in the official record. Please be advised that I'm unable to attend the city council meeting tonight regarding approval of this matter to offer my content. This is about 859 Amoretti Street replat. I already made plans that cannot be altered at this late date. My comment would have been timely submitted prior to planning commission action if I had been properly notified of this replat subdivision request rather than the replat subdivision request at 552 Amoretti Street, which is out of my 400-foot comment boundary. I was advised of the replat subdivision at 859 Amoretti Street on Friday, August 4th, 2023, after the planning commission approved it, with my 552 comment being submitted by Ms. Fossen as a comment for the 859 Amoretti replat. I object to my 552 comment being submitted for the 859 Amoretti replat without my consent. I immediately notified Ms. Fossen that I had not been properly notified of this action and wished to submit my comments, which she advised I could still do at tonight's city council meeting where the 859 Amoretti replat will be approved. Now I'm scrambling to be heard through no fault of my own when no one seems to be concerned about the mistake or oversight of the improper notification. Full steam ahead as usual. I object in part to the replat as presented. Because a homeowners association is apparently being incorporated into the property development, I do not object to the splitting of the current lot into 2 lots, provided that the HOA requires off-street parking. The snow removal failure of this past winter is reason enough. Limits occupancy to keep the number of vehicles equal to the number of off-street parking spaces, prevents barking dogs, provides mandatory requirements for property maintenance and upkeep, and provides a mechanism for enforcement. Nor do I object to the 2-family dwelling townhouse condominium plan for one of the new lots. I do, however, object to the multifamily dwelling plan for the remaining lot. This property is located in an R3 district spot zone that the mayor and council, former and current, have been aware of for years, but chose to leave in place in contradiction to zoning codes everywhere to accommodate an existing trailer park. When the last trailer house manufactured home was removed from the property, making the R3 zoning moot, the city should have on its own application, strongly suggested to Mayor Richardson by this commentator, requested that the planning commission rezone the R3 spot zone into an R2 for compatibility with the existing and surrounding R2 district, rather than continue to perpetuate its wrongful existence. Another 2-family dwelling instead of the multifamily dwelling would not be objected to and would be compatible with the existing surrounding properties. Note, rezoning this R3 spot zone into the proper R2 district will not impact other manufactured homes within the R3 district, as each lot has its own legal description and can be sold on its own without a subdivision application. The existence of a platted triplex at 400 North 9th Street, which is being used as a duplex, shall not be held up as an excuse to continue to R3 spot zone's existence as was rezoned under fraudulent application. In summary, if the R3 spot zone is rezoned into the surrounding R2 district, there will be no objection on my part to splitting the current lot into 2 lots, each with a 2-family dwelling with the above referenced conditions in place. Best regards, Kathleen Averill.
Thank you. Any more communication from the floor? Since there is none, we'll move on. We'll go to mayor and council updates. Let's start with Councilman Josh Hahn.
I have nothing tonight, sir.
Thank you. Councilman Stubble.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 2 items. Conservation District meets tomorrow. So I'm happy to carry any questions, concerns to that meeting for you. And secondarily, excited to announce that the Conservation District has secured funding through federal funds and private funds to address a homeowner, a piece of property on the river with a septic system and get that house hooked up to sewer. So pleased to have some resolution to that issue. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thanks for working on that. Councilwoman Cox.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of things, I just had a couple of questions and we can address them in the bills and claims later. Also in reference to several requests for open container. Councilwoman White had brought up a good point at our last council meeting about some consistency within those parameters. And now we have a couple of requests this meeting for specifically for the Pioneer or the museum area. And I think that initially, and so I just wanted to bring this up for a source of discussion later, is initially we had that consistency primarily to deal with noise levels when it came to bands. Is that accurate in why we chose the 10 PM? Do you guys recall? Largely. Okay. That's just to put that in my head as we talk about those later on. And then also as by far, or as far as the LIDA board goes, they have a recommendation tonight that they've attached and will be, I think Eric is supposed to be here, although he isn't yet, to go over those recommendations. And then also the Fremont County School District #1 is meeting on a work session tonight. They've got a lot of things happening, a lot of opened positions. So if you know of anybody that's looking for para position or coaching positions or anything of that nature, they have a lot of job openings. So aside from that, I think I'll go ahead and head on. I'm done.
Did it?
Yeah.
Okay, Councilman Hahn.
I have more of a question. This is on the proposed Hillcrest project. And have we voted to spend any money on the engineering or any of the studies on the Hillcrest?
No, we haven't.
We haven't.
No. That's-
Well, it seems the city has said that the city of Lander is ready to jump on board with that project. And we're not really talking a whole lot about this. I mean, we're having meetings outside and the city's heavily involved in this. And I think before the city says to the county that we're ready to jump on board, I really think the consensus of the council, even though this is a study, I think that the council should be involved, because I don't think it's right that we say we're ready to, and there's a lot of things being said about what could go on Hillcrest. And I've said before, I don't mind those kind of projects when we get all the meat and potatoes, done in town. We got a lot of stuff to work on here, but I think that when we commit to something before the council discusses it, and we really haven't had a whole lot of discussion, I don't think that's right. So I think that we need to discuss this.
Yeah.
We need to get it and I mean, if everybody's on board, that's one thing, but this is a huge situation. The first piece is small potatoes. I mean, but the second piece where the city goes and puts infrastructure all the way out and around in the rural area and possibly hooks people up with water, that's a big deal. So I think that we need to have the conversations here in front of the council and with the council before we make promises to the county.
Okay.
So that's my comment.
Okay, I'm gonna have Regine, Lance.
Okay, Dan, you stole my staff report from me.
What's that?
You stole my staff report from me. I attended the county commissioners meeting today where the Hillcrest plan was presented. And this is a study that the city participated in through YDOT funding. And so we've been a partner in the study all along. The study has been released. The county commissioners adopted it today. I was going to ask you guys if I could present that at the next work session so that we could determine if the council wanted to adopt that Hillcrest plan. And the other thing is the water master plan has not been adopted either. You guys have all talked about the water master plan, but we'd like to adopt that formally the first week in September. Lance and I don't think you guys need another update on the Lander water master plan, but we could do that at the next work session if appropriate.
I'd love to see that happen. I don't know about everybody else, but I'm taking a pounding on not getting things done, and we're at the end of the year now, so we're another year not, getting boots on the ground.
Mhm.
And I understand the studies, I really do. I understand this, but how many studies do you put out there? And before you get the boots on the ground, and we really need to show people something. I really think we do. And the people I'm talking to, they're not real happy because they want to see something done. And then they hear about, something taking place in the county, and we haven't even started anything in the city. So for me, I think it looks kind of bad, but I'm
Mayor,
just
if I
one
may.
person. I'd like to get the whole group together and see what everybody's thinking. So thank you very much for that.
So I'll just finish my report if I may. At that council or at that commissioners meeting, we discussed our partnership. The study was done, 30% of the length of the study area is city limits and the rest is in the county. So what I agreed to today is I said there is no funding in this fiscal year for Hillcrest, but that we would have time to get it in funding for the next future year during construction, and that we were willing to participate at the same partnership level that we did for the study.
I have one other question. What are the commissioners saying about this? It's a county road. A little piece up front, yeah, is Landers, but is there are they talking about this? It almost sounds if they're not on board with this project, it just sounds like we got the cart in front of the horse,
Yeah. Today, the commissioners voted to adopt the study and proceed with engineering design.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Councilwoman White?
Thank you, Mayor. A few things I heard from the folks doing the Baldwin School pathway that they've raised an additional 10,000, and that leaves 25,000 to go. So they're still working hard on that. I attended the Challenge for Charities check award ceremony last night. Another banner year, $690,000 raised for Lander nonprofits. Pretty awesome to see the community involvement in that as well. Senior Center board meeting met this morning. They are continuing to work really hard at various projects that they do and serving the meals and taking care of our senior community. They still are hoping for more drivers to help out. It can be as little or as full-time as you'd like. So please spread that word. Also, they could use assistance in the kitchen. So if you know anybody with a passion for cooking, please have them get in touch with Jane Nolde for that. They're also looking for coolers, bigger than a 6-pack cooler, but not giant, so that they can leave food. Not all the folks that they deliver their meals to are either immediately home or can get to the door quickly. So they want a way to be able to keep those appropriately cool. So if anybody has extra coolers, they would appreciate that. And then lastly, and Mayor, I wrote to you this morning, and I think you were going to follow up with Adam, but is there a way to have a more permanent solution for how Museum of the American West hosts events and have them permanently exempted from ours? It seems like that was an oversight with a shift from city ownership to county ownership. And it would be really nice if we could do something permanent for that. And hopefully that's something we can do.
Adam?
I can speak to that. Under our ordinances, there are certain exemptions for public, for open containers. Unfortunately, that area does not fit within one of those exemptions, and so they are forced to apply for public open container permits. So the way to be able to overcome that is there's two ways. You can do it short term with resolution and do it on a yearly basis, or you can change the ordinance with 3 readings.
Okay, so there are ways forward and
If
so
you
we
want
would-
to.
this is if folks want, it's 2212 is the resolution we're talking about, or excuse me, the ordinance we're talking about.
Correct.
So, okay, so there is a potential way forward.
It's
So
up
I
to you
would-
guys if you want to advise us to work on amending that ordinance, then it would take 3 readings, plus probably a work session as to the benefits and drawbacks of doing that, or you can do it temporarily with a resolution.
Okay,
So you can make a resolution to exempt them for the summer of 2024, for example. But if you want it to be more permanent, then
we'd have to
you'd have to
change the
amend the
ordinance.
ordinance.
Okay. And my own feeling on that, and also having talked with some of the Museum of American West staff, is they would very much appreciate having a permanent solution that allows them their own discretion for it.
Mayor, yeah,
Yes. Go ahead, Councilman
thank you.
Sewell.
I'd also be in favor of seeing some change. I'm not sure yet on the resolution of the ordinance. I think I defer to you about the best solution there, but I would look for, I think it would provide consistency. I think it would provide certainty for those private venues, right? The private folks who are trying to have weddings that are being told, hopefully now it's being shared more widely that they need this permit, but for some of the ones that we saw last time who were last minute, that was unfortunate. So I think we could have a consistent end time, and I'd like to also see if the chief is okay with this, that we, for private events like weddings at that place, that we don't have the wristband requirement, which seems a little silly for weddings and things. I think that we see it on these exemptions today. And I think for a private event, that doesn't seem necessary.
May I make
wanna weigh
just a
in
quick
too?
complete, are you good with that? A couple of things. I can understand that, but there's I think it's a security level of with the wristband to continue that so that we're not encouraging serving to minors. Even if they don't do it, it's at least something that the city stands by, that we don't want to tolerate service to underage drinking. However, they manage that in their own venue is up to them. But I think as far as the city, how else would you know? If you're not monitoring it closely, these things do happen quite frequently. And then I do, just by weighing in, and thank you for bringing that up. I really would prefer a resolution in the first year to sort of figure it out, see what is actually going on. And if there's problems, then we have a way to say, okay, next year, let's look at a change
Yeah.
and make that permanent. But at least for the rest of this year, it would give them freedom to do so. Thank you for doing that.
And then lastly, going back to the senior center, it was brought up in this morning's meeting by Jane Nolte that they are considering placing a ballot initiative on the next ballot of 2 mills to support the senior center, as they've seen funding dwindle from other more common things. For example, they used to get 30,000 annually from the county. They're now getting only 10. And they, like other places, are having a tough time making ends meet. So they're not totally ready to push go, but seems to be they're leaning quite heavily that way for that. So, and that is it, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilman White. Councilman Larson.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I like the idea of the resolution for the Museum of the American West also. I think that would get us up and running for this year, like you say, seeing also what bumps are in the road there and gives us a chance to work through that. One of the other things that I've got is probably a couple questions for Lance. I realize that, the repairs for the water and sewer and so forth that we encountered this last winter. We're waiting on parts and pieces from all places around the world. And that's got us hung up pretty good. I'm just wondering if what it looks like in your perspective there, Lance, of being able to get the parts and to get the projects done. You know, so we don't go into next year with our pants down from last year. And, you know, have to worry about the new brakes before we even get the old ones fixed.
Sure. Where we are is we're starting that this week. You'll start seeing the North Second and South Second lines being put out for temp water and then construction starting early next week. We had to find a different contractor. You know, we've called around and trying to find people with excavators that we can pay hourly to help us because we just don't have enough staff to do the work all ourselves, but we're going to handle it with our local crew as much as possible, borrowing from the water treatment plant cemetery. Going to do a separation of materials up at the cemetery so that we can put clean fill back in. But I think we have all the details worked out and you'll see that going. It's going to be North and South Second closed for a little while. So you'll certainly see and hear about it. So that was my staff update. You know, we're getting that kicked off and finally have enough parts that we think we can reconnect services and get this done. We're trying for 3 blocks this year that we've got to get done. If we can get any additional, we will. We've also notified additional contractors. If you have availability, we'll work with you. You know, we just need your insurance information, your rates, and be able to put them to work in certain areas. But your local contractors are extremely busy. Ones that told us that they would be available in early August are now telling us October. They're getting washed out in Du Bois and called to other places and all kinds of things going on around the state that have put them behind on completing projects as they would hoped as well. So I think contractor availability is some of this problem beyond just the materials being available. We don't have all the parts that we need for all 3, but we're still trying to find different brands, different types, different ways. So exploring that with all different options. A lot of it's the galvanized pipes, the old pipes that are in the ground, finding compression fittings to go to new plastic fittings. So that's the last fittings we're looking for. We have the big stuff. I mean, fire hydrants and PVC pipe. If you go look in our yard, valves, all of that's there. It's just those small little things that are hard to find that we're having difficulty getting to town.
Okay, thank you. And
I heard that you were maybe promised to drive truck a little on this, so I'm surprised that you don't know this already, but I have a rate for you driving truck.
I've not heard that yet. so-
Yeah, you better ask your other boss, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Good. The other thing that I was curious about is, I noticed that, well, I had a person point out to me that there's a pretty good pile of cottonwood there in the Hermansky addition to the city park. What would it take or what kind of hoops would somebody have to jump through to get that and cut it up for firewood?
We've been allowing people first come, first serve
Okay.
to, remove that material if that's what they're looking to do.
Yeah,
So
great.
I had somebody email me the same thing. If we can clean that out and it becomes usable, it's waste material at this point that we'd have to haul to the dump.
Okay, thank you. I think that's it, Mayor.
Well, you stole some of my thunder too, because I'd have stole some of Lance's and all this. But I was gonna talk about the same thing. Just real quick, I just want to let you know that we need to make sure that when we go with the resolution that MA is disbanded. They no longer run the museum, so we need to make sure we use the proper terminology, and the Pioneer Museum and the county now have it. So MA no longer exists. They have disbanded that, and let it go back to the county. So, and then I said I'm excited to get things started, so Lance, tear up the streets, please. So, but other than that, that's all I got. So moving on, go to staff reports. Chief?
Just a couple, few things that you're gonna see coming here in the next month, the multi-jurisdictional traffic unit for the countywide traffic unit. I think I talked about it a little bit. What it is the state granted us our grant. So it's gonna be one unit from Riverton, Shoshone, the sheriff's office, us, and the highway patrol will all be a part of it. But the one thing is the MOUs, we held off on running the MOUs and doing the MOUs until after we got the funding for the team. So we got that, so we're putting that all into planning, but Rick and Adam will be dealing with the MOU. So the grant goes live in October. So the hope is we can get the MOUs all done and presented to all the different councils, since we got a lot of hands in this. When it comes to getting signed by every council in the county, pretty much. So the hope is to get that out by next month and have that wrapped up hopefully before October 1st, so we can hit the ground running. The only other things, body cam, you'll see a contract coming through for the body cams here probably in the next meeting. That's been about a 2-year project. The body cams we had were, I mean, they're suitable and they work, but they're not the highest grade when it comes to replacing. They were outright bought. So in turn, they were bought with no warranties. They've been crashing on us. They just weren't the highest grade. So it took 2 years to actually figure out something where we didn't have to dump a ton of capital straight out into it. So I did find a company that it's a top of the line body cam, and also it includes the cloud based in it. So it comes out to about 11,000 a year, which I have it in my budget. I'll just budget naturally for it, so I don't have to ask the council for any extra money. And then what that is that comes with, it's a 5-year program, and if anything ever happens to them, they replace them. Every 2 years, they automatically replace them. So pretty much what we'll have is we will have something in place to where we don't have to worry about body cams crashing or videos disappearing into, outer space and cyberspace or whatever you want to call it. So you'll see that coming through, but I do have the budget for it. So it's not an extra ask of money. And then the only other thing I have is our data system I've been talking about for 2 years since I've been here, 3 years now, 2.5 years. The one we got in the grant, we went live with that in March, but our mapping finally went live today. And this thing is awesome. So literally in one of the next work sessions, I'll get it all plugged in so you guys can actually see it. So besides giving us the data, it actually breaks it out to location and gives us heat maps. It tells us if you're not paying attention, which we pay attention, so don't get me wrong. If, literally the map will start lighting up on you. So if stuff's trending in all different areas, it pretty much makes analyzing crime for dummies, ultimately in the end. So that thing is awesome. So, and that was paid through the Department of Justice grant that we got last year. So that's all I have unless you have questions. And then we have curtailed the curfew issue. I'm sure you might have got complaints from some parents, but we've been wrangling all the kids after 11 o'clock for the last several weeks. So, and coincidentally, a lot of our issues that we were having in the middle of the night have vanished too. So I'm not saying every kid out on the street was causing problems, but there was a group of up to no good kids. So we got that all curtailed. And then the e-bike thing, it's amazing. After I talked to you about that, I've had more people call me about not complaining. They're actually calling me about, I own e-bikes. I know everything when it comes to it. So it was actually neat. The next day I had 7 messages. It was a pain in the butt calling everybody back, but it was nice. I got an education in e-bikes, which was good because I thought I knew a little bit. I didn't know a whole lot on it. So if you have any questions.
Questions? Councilman Larson.
That has subsided. We changed our philosophy on how hard we came down on stuff. And it seems to have taken care of itself when it comes to, we really got on folks about, because like I talked about, our ordinance is lacking in the fact that it says, it's not a true leash law. It's a leash or under your control. Well, what's under your control? I mean, that's, vague. So we made it a point of not being mean, but we kind of talked to people who didn't have dogs on leashes. And that's the majority of our last bites. Our last whole rash of bites came from people walking their dogs not on the leash, and the dog takes off across the street and takes a bite out of crime. But No, it's rectified. We haven't had a dog bite in probably a month. So.
No. Lance?
Yes, Mayor and Council, just a few updates. Tank and pump station demolition and construction is underway. So if you're driving up to the hospital or the street shop or the airport, on your left, that's where the new pump station is going to land. And then the tank is supposed to be demoed this fall still. So we'll see the 2 million gallon reservoir there on Mortimer Lane and the highway go to the ground. And then next year, when the weather's nice enough, they'll start constructing our new 4 million gallon tank in its place. So a lot to see as far as construction goes there with that $10 million job underway. Just to add on to Regine's discussion, the Hillcrest study, we have a minimal part in that. And then if you read the water master plan, we do not have things laid out there where existing customers and their rates are paying for future growth and expansion within the county. That would be something that needs to fall on developers or something that's annexed or on the county residents themselves, something through the bulk fill station, but not coming up with those dollars locally. So if you are being asked in the community about expansion project or a loop outside of the area, unless it's transmission and beneficial to the city and it's moving water for the benefit of the city, all of those areas that we looked outside city limits and the growth areas are there for if a developer or somebody comes up and they're looking to develop acreage outside, those projects are already in the master plan. A project can be applied for, receive funding for those transmission lines, and that's 75% funding coming from the state rather than local. So they're there for future growth and development, not necessarily there for something we'll do tomorrow. And so we'll have to make just decisions if we are going to build infrastructure in certain areas. If you want to incentivize growth and development, if councils want to make that decision at some point, that's where you could maybe put some of those loops in, hoping that growth would occur around those water lines. But that's not really what we're looking for as far as existing rates. That's removal, replacement, infrastructure that we're already needing for the community. And then developing additional water supply, making sure we're fine for growth. So we can talk more about that master plan, or if you guys get a chance to read through it, have questions, let me know. If we want to pull in the engineers and have another discussion, I think that would be important. Another thing with this $45 million that, that went really quick in my mind with very little discussion to talk about that much money. So wanted to talk a little bit more about, not having to raise that money at the very beginning of a project. You're just not sitting with the revenue, and you'd really have to hit your ratepayers with very high rate increases to develop capital to do those same projects when we're talking about these low interest loans with forgiveness. So we get to have smaller rate increases if people are asking you about it, and consistent rate increases rather than trying to develop capital, build projects, and then develop enough capital to cover inflation. So just something else, if community members are talking about that, it's worth discussing it in that way, saying, hey, you would have seen us jump 20, 25% or more in rates to try to develop all of that money up front. And then we still don't know if we would have gotten ahead to actually build something. So just something to think about as you're getting questions there, or I'd be happy to talk to anybody as well if they want to talk about these projects, and you can send them my way. There's a lot of good projects in there that help a lot of people. So hopefully we can make all of this happen, and really excited about it. We're looking at the Lincoln Street project bidding here, hopefully in the next month. And then that will be something where they're getting the parts, materials, everything ready to go. And as soon as frost comes out of the ground and we can tear things up, again, we'll be right here on Lincoln Street from end to end. ADA, the road, all of the work that's going with that, with a lot of that being grant. So that'll be another big project next year that you can tell people about. So I guess that's it, just more from a construction stand base. Oh, Melinda had a great question the other day, 8th and Garfield, water bubbling out of the ground, and you'll see that on a walk or whatever's going on. That's actually a ditch. And so that's not city water. If somebody asks you about it, that's a grate on the ditches flowing through Lander. And when it gets too much water coming through that area and the pipe can't take it, that's where it kicks out, goes back in the storm drain and back in the river. So we're not allowing potable water just to run down the drain if people are asking that question. So just a few things out there to to help with questions we've had recently, and happy to answer any other questions you guys have.
Councilwoman White?
Thank you, Mayor. Lance, thanks for that info. And both of those last things you talked about seem like they're more than a Facebook post, but potentially that's some press releases that Ann can do explaining what the state revolving fund is used for and the benefit of that, et cetera, that I think that's pretty key to help educate our public about and why we apply for these large things. And what the impact would be if we didn't do that is quite compelling. And then likewise, I think the 8th and Garfield, it's a ditch overrun would be, that might be feasible as a simple Facebook post, but it seems like we should help get the word out to a broader public.
Yeah, we can do that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Stoll?
Thank you, Mayor. Lance, just two quick ones. My mom might have been the constituent calling you about 8th and Garfield, so I'll report back to her. She was very concerned. And did I hear you correctly? So Lincoln Street's going out for bid, but you expect construction next summer?
Yeah, this is we're starting to do our projects now in the fall rather than the spring. So that the contractors can do their submittals, that's get in what parts and what they need to order, work with their suppliers and actually find the parts to construct. We're finding jobs are lasting 2 seasons if we don't do it this way. So the timing on this was to give the contractor enough time to work through all of those issues now through their winter months and have everything ready to go for a good construction season next year and finish it from end to end.
Awesome. That makes sense. I had a business asking about when they'd expect that kind of traffic disruption. So I'll tell them next summer.
Was it Gamble's?
Elemental.
Okay, yeah, Gamble's called me right before the meeting, so
Oh.
you handle them and I'll handle
Great.
Gamble.
I will do. And I'll handle my mom as well.
Yeah, and we'll have some.
Although I might actually, maybe not.
We'll have some public meetings and discussions on that project as well, so everybody's in the know. Once we can get those plans out for bid and finalize and discuss that with landowners as to what the timing of that project is.
Regine?
Okay, I'm going to give my update, but I'll just reiterate that the Hillcrest study will be on the next work session. It sounds like we need just a really short, maybe a question session for the water master plan on the same work session. And then both of those will be up for council's decision to adopt those on the first regular meeting in September. The only other thing I have is don't forget the open house tomorrow. It is from 3 to 6 p.m. in this room. We have a lot of informational boards, a lot of staff that will be here that you can talk to, and inviting all the public to come to that between 3 and 6 tomorrow in this room.
Any questions? Sorry.
The next regular meeting, we will have a budget amendment, shoring up the accounts from 6/30/23. We still ended up with about a surplus of 340,000 when we're all said and done. But we need to do some transfers between accounts. The other thing, I want to point out is if we get the forgiveness, and forgiveness is all based on timing and how much they have left to give of forgiveness each time these loans will close out. But in a perfect world, it would be about $9.3 million. So we're actually only financing about $32 million at the end of the day. If in a perfect world that we were able to get forgiveness at the maximum amount. The other thing is we're hoping that like the water meter project will be a green project, so we won't have to pay any interest on that particular loan when that one rolls out. I would hope, so right now we have 6 SLIB loans that we have that we're financed at 2.5%. So SLIB's going to allow us to get those all refinanced for 1.5%. I'd like to keep the payments the same amount so that we can get those paid off a little sooner. So in a perfect world, like 2029, we could start looking at our next series of projects that we want to do and then start the next $45 million projects or however it may, because once we start making those payments, like 31, 33, 34, we get all the rest of those loans paid off. So we could start the next cycle of projects and be prepared for to make use of the low SRF interest rate. So if we get loans over 15 million, you get the 0.25 interest rate. So that's why we're doing this. and asking for the 45 upfront. The other thing is, Kevin and I are going to the APT conference in Salt Lake City next, week. Kevin is going to be sitting for the advanced CPFA, or the advanced CPFIM, investment class. He's passed the test for the, beginning one, so he'll be taking the advanced one, this next week. And I did get reappointed to my board position on the APT. And that's all I have.
Can you fill us in on the alphabet soup
Yes,
you just
please.
mentioned there?
Certified Public Funds Investment Manager and Advanced Certified Public Funds Investment Manager. Yeah, so yeah, it was good. He did good on one and now he's gonna pass the next one.
Any more questions from you two? Okay, since there's none. Adam,
I don't have anything. I'm not that cool.
okay. Kevin,
Yeah, I have nothing. Rochelle didn't leave anything for me.
okay. All right. Moving on, we'll go to the consent agenda. And it's a long one tonight. Approval of June, A is approval of June 30th, 23 emergency council meeting minutes. B is approval of July 11th, 2023 regular council meeting minutes. C is approval of July 25th, 2023 regular council meeting minutes. D is approval of July 25th, 2023 work session minutes. E is approval of bills and claims. Under that consent agenda is approval of resolution 1299 exempting the Pioneer Museum from open container provision for the city ordinance 2-2-12. G is approval of resolution 1300 exempting the Pioneer Museum from open container provisions in city ordinance 2-2-12. H is approval of resolution 1302 exempting the Pioneer Museum from property from open container provisions in the city ordinance 2-2-12. I'll know that one when we're done tonight. Approval of resolution 1303 exempting the Pioneer Museum property from open container provision from the city ordinance 2-2-12. And J, approval of resolution 1304 exempting the Pioneer Museum from open container and provision from the city ordinance 2-2-12. That's why we need a resolution. So on that note, any questions, discussion, topics on that?
Yes, Mayor, I do have a couple of discussion items on bills and claims.
Okay,
The first one would be, there was a bill there for Flying Phoenix in the amount of $3,000. And I was just curious, was that the remainder of what we purchased or was that additional?
That's actually the cost for them to let the fireworks off.
Okay. Okay, thank you. It was like, that seemed odd to me, but anyway, that was good. Then there was another one for a new refrigerator in the amount of $699. And I was curious, where can we buy a refrigerator for that inexpensive?
Yeah, I think that's the refrigerator at the Parks and Rec building.
Oh, gotcha.
Is where that one. Yeah, got it. It was a Gamble's refrigerator, and I think that there was probably some spoiled meat and other things that were quite the surprise on that. So probably more value that went to waste than the cost of the new refrigerator.
Dang it. And then there was also one last one that I had a question about, was a camera in the amount of $4,574 approximately. And my question is, was that for you, Chief?
Yeah, what that is, that's actually, we got a grant last year. And we thought we had till October and they called us the last day of May and said you have about 4 hours. So, we've been reimbursed for that camera, I believe. Okay, I think it is in, because I have a copy of a whiteout check for it. So I believe, either way, it's either been reimbursed or it will be reimbursed. That's a in-car camera for the squad cars.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, that was all the questions I had for the bills and claims.
okay, any other questions? I need a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
In a second,
Second.
a motion by Councilwoman Cox. Approve the consent agenda and a second by Councilwoman Stubble. Gonna call for the question. Councilman Josh Hahn.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, moving on, new business. First on the action item is Eric Andrews Lift and Lita update program changes for approval. Eric?
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I submitted to your packets for this meeting, I submitted some requests for you to vote on. 3 items affecting lift applications and how those are determined to be eligible and how the awarding will ultimately be passed on to LIDA for recommendation to council. So we can talk about that in just a second. I did promise you a couple meetings ago that I would start providing some updates on how what some of these lift applications have been. So I gave you an update, about 3 pages. I won't go over all of it, but I will highlight. You can see out of the 5 that are reported on, Backcountry Cobbler, Apple Valley School, Amankara, and Lander Brewing Company have all created jobs within the community. We have a total of about five or six FTEs that were created and providing additional services in the community. And like in the case of Lander Brewing, they're now being able to sell their product statewide. So Lander Motel was the other one that I reported on. We had a 12-month or a 6-month check-in with those guys. I also went and met with the owners yesterday and did a tour of the facility, both that and the building next door. Happy to report they had their first guest in this past weekend. So finally contributing some tax dollars back to the community. So but yeah, so I put that in there. I wanted y'all to see that. Any questions on that?
Yeah, agree. No questions, but that's a fabulous amount of detail. So thank you. I look forward to
Yeah,
having
and
this going forward.
I'm going to try to start providing these kind of updates. You know, we have 6-month and 12-month check-in process. We'll try to start doing this for you quarterly, maybe before or when we come back to report on the current applications. So if there's no other questions, I will report. The application period for this next round ended August 1st, which was last week. We have not determined eligibility yet, so the first lift meeting hasn't taken place. We did have 8 applications come through. And the majority of those, let's see, 4 of them were over $50,000. 6 of them were over $40,000. So have a lot of big asks this time. So anyway, that's all I have as far as reporting on lift. The second item on my agenda was to get you to consider and approve the request that I submitted. So I'll take questions on those if you have a question.
You want to take these one at a time? Okay, let's take these one at a time. Let's go with number 1. I think everybody has it in front of them. I'll have you read it, Eric.
Okay, so LIDA recommends $25,000 of the half-cent economic development sales tax collections per quarter be transferred to LIDA to support LIDA's operating budget. This will go to support LIDA's agenda and provide for the administrative of currently identified community-wide projects and hopefully other community-wide projects that we identify. I will give you a little bit of input on what those projects currently are that we've identified. One is the administration of the Wyoming Business Council Community Review. This is a project we want to do, but we're required to have a full-time person administer that process. It's about a 6-month process where the Business Council sends in 2 to 3 representatives to the community. They interview community members, community businesses. They'll probably interview each and every one of you. And they really do a deep dive into what economic development objectives really would satisfy this community. So really help us get pointed in the right direction. And we really think it'd be a benefit to the community. Our problem right now is we don't have anybody to administer that. We had previously looked at partnering with the chamber to do this. And we would probably ask them to do that again. We haven't had that conversation. But we still need to have somebody that can administer that program. So that's where part of the budget would go. It would be to hire a staff that could run that program. That staff would also be responsible for applying for and administering other economic development grants. We recently, as a volunteer board, went after a grant to provide a 2.5 year of a paid staff to come run a specific project related to Enterprise Park. That's for the future development of that property, potentially acquiring that land on the city's behalf so that we could develop it, because right now we can only lease it through the state, which nobody in however many years it's been sitting there is interested in. And to the best of my knowledge, we were denied that application simply because we don't have somebody to administer it. So, so that's a project we've it's on the back burner right now. We're still in discussions, but we don't see a way forward, the way that LEDA currently operates. So, speaking of Enterprise Park, that's also one of our top objectives, developing that, hitting the next phase. We do have some property up there developed. We have a tower with Union that produces a small amount of income annually, but it's not enough to support a position. And there's 2 additional phases up there that were planned originally that will probably never get done if we don't have somebody focus on it. So that's one of our priorities as well. And then last but not least, somebody to really get out there and fight for LIFT, fight for the economic development tax, some dollars to help advertise and support that mission. And we believe that's super important, especially heading into the election cycle next year. So those are kind of the 4 objectives we've identified to use these funds for.
Questions? Councilman Hahn.
I've been taking I guess I'm lucky. I've been taking a huge amount of flack on this. The people that I've been talking to are not happy, but I have a question for Shari. Does LEDA have a city budget line item? Are we paying LEDA?
They have a $5,000 line item budget currently in our budget.
How many?
$5,000.
5,000. Okay. I guess the other thing I'd say is, I guess, county commissioners make 34,000. The mayor makes 21,000. We make 2,000 to 4,000 a year. And you're asking for $100,000. Like I said, the people I'm talking to, there's a lot of people that are plumb furious over thinking that tax dollars are going to go to salary. And so I don't know where this is going to go. I will not be able to support this, but I don't know. I really don't know what to tell you, but there's a lot of people that are very unhappy with that. Maybe it's just the dollar amount, but thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Cox.
Just in reference to that, I think that it's important to note that these are recommendations made by the LEDA board and then would be up to the council to decide whether or not we pass them. So I think that, aside from if there's constituents that are upset by it, these are the recommendations. These are where LEDA believes that this will move economic development forward in the city of Lander. If it's the council's discretion to review those things and either accept those recommendations or not. And so I think those things are to bear in mind that, we haven't made a decision yet about them one way or the other. So.
Councilman White.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Hahn, you're not alone in that concerns and hearing that in my own as well, admittedly. Eric, I absolutely want LEDA to be successful. I hope you can believe me in saying that. In having served on LEDA for multiple terms, I get the challenge of a volunteer board and a task list that's much larger than a volunteer board can do. Even higher superseding that is for me, and I'd really like the economic development sales tax to be renewed. And likewise, hearing from the public, funding at this level is not serving both of those goals. I could be more amenable to it with a lower dollar threshold. I have to admit also, while I appreciate the things you said here, and I get that there's work to be done, it's likewise hard to both explain to and justify to the public how a small board volunteers doing a few projects a year, like the WOW and some other things, jumps to a complete FTE in that. And I think it's more realistic to do that in a phased attempt. I think that'd be much more palatable to the general public if these kinds of funds are going to be used to shift from, quarter time, eventually to half time, and then on to full time. I realize that would preclude some of the things you want to do if the community review requires a full-time position. That's challenging, that they only want to serve folks that are already well established, but I don't get to create that. I look at the ED community, if the communities that have a full-time are far more developed and far larger communities. A lot of folks compare it to Riverton, which basically it's a 16-hour-a-week position. So those are all my thoughts on it, that again, and I want Lita to succeed. I see the benefit of paid staff to be able to attend to some of these things. I see this not being well received by the public if that full level of funding were made available at your full request.
Thank you. Councilman Hahn?
Okay, so I guess this would be for Adam. Is it even legal to take 0.5% sales tax money and pay somebody's salary if it wasn't on the, if people didn't vote? It wasn't explained to the public to vote, like, we're gonna give 20% to the airport, 10% to WRTA. The rest is gonna go to the people wanting to, get the development tax. Is it legal to use that money without the people actually voting? It was on a ballot. It wasn't on a ballot to pay a salary.
I don't know if I necessarily understand your question, because it was on the ballot to be able to allow the cities to be able to use that money as they see fit.
There's stipulations to that, though.
I haven't looked at it. I have to look.
Okay, well, that wasn't one of the stipulations, was paying somebody's salary.
I don't know.
Okay, that was my question, but LITA is a volunteer organization, and I feel 100,000 a year is pretty substantial amount. And, I do have a lot of people coming at me as well. They weren't happy about the airport receiving more than the allotted amount. They thought that was wrong due to the fact that it specifies we will give this amount to the airport, but we voted as a council to pay them more on that. And, and that was one thing that really bothered me, because I had people come at me, and one thing I don't do is lie. And I feel like I lied to them, because I voted yes on that as well. And then I got to thinking about it, and it wasn't moral for me, I guess, to take people's money that work hard and spend it on something that we choose is, something we want. You know what I mean? And I think that when we're thinking about this, paying somebody 100,000 a year, that's something you want. And we're taking that from the public, and people are having a hard time right now. Everything is expensive, and not too many people make 100,000 a year around here. That's all I got, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Stool?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Andrews, for presenting these. I share a lot of these concerns, and Councilwoman White, I think you were probably said it much more eloquently than I could. Some of the concerns you outlaid, that what we're walking here is a fine line for, or where I'm walking a fine line, that we do want to see LITA. I want to see LITA succeed. The projects you've listed here are important and compelling in many ways. My discomfort is more so with it being lift funds that you're requesting, and I'd rather see this request come to us during our budgeting process, and we make a decision based on this coming out of city funds, not out of the lift funds. And so that would be punting this to next spring when we're doing our budget process, but I'd like to have the debate then, I think, rather than having these be lift funds. I have some discomfort also with the amount of money, but more so with the source here. And so I can't support this recommendation at this time.
Okay, you got one more?
Yep. Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that. Yeah, definitely. I think there's just a couple of issues. I don't know if I'm running in a different circle or not, but I'm getting a lot of positive feedback in reference to our economic development and our plans moving forward. And while there's been some, contention with some awards and some misinformation and some, hesitations, and rightfully so, absolutely, when you're dealing with tax dollars and a ballot item. But, I was pretty mindful about requesting input based on the amount of work that LEADA's been doing for us and recommending these types of things and really looking into things and sort of revamping, maybe some mistakes we made early on. But I am hearing one of them is we have a lot of community projects going on that would not be able to go on without the funding. And for the people that are being positively affected by those dollar amounts, that's really encouraging. We have a lot of primary dollars coming through our community. We have a lot of people visiting our community that would not normally visit our community and are pleased with the risks that are taken, and sometimes it's hard because there is negative feedback and there are things that can be done better, and we can always be better. But, I reached out for the last 2 weeks to constituents, and 75% of them are very happy with the direction in which the city is going as it relates to economic development. And I don't think we hear the positive enough. We get a lot of the squeaky wheel, as we know, that gets the oil. But I think it's important to know that we have a really good community. We have a lot of people in a lot of aspects doing different things to enhance our community so that we can continue to have roads to drive on, water, that's clean and those things. And I don't want to make light of those things, but I think it's necessary, especially when we're talking about generating revenue in a different way, in a different fashion. The amount of you look at these projects and the amount of jobs that are being developed and people that can actually afford to live here. And I think that it embraces the old and the new, right? Which can be uncomfortable, but it also allows for foundational growth that will impact our community for years to come. And I also want to address the $100,000 salary. That is not $100,000 salary. That's $25,000 to come out of the lift funding to support an operating budget. When you look at a contractual employee, if they're making $100,000, say they're getting $25,000 a quarter, it doesn't go to salary, just a salary. They have to, they're an independent contractor. So it's not like, you understand what I'm saying? It's not as though we're paying them $100,000 for their salary. That would be what the LEADA is requesting for an operating budget, not for salary. I think we need to make sure we're staying away from that. There's a lot of things that have to happen within that LEADA program. I think it's important to say that we want them to be successful. We have to have them be successful because we're relying on them to continue the half cent. We're relying on them and our community to enhance it so that we can continue to receive those dollars that we can't be without right now. And so I think that I'd like the narrative to change. Now, I'm not saying that of course I'm for the $25,000 operating budget. I sit on the LEADA board. I'm their liaison. Of course I would support what they did and what they're recommending. But I think that long-term, it makes sense. And if it's out of the county or the city budget, that I can see where that makes sense as well if we have the funding. But then you're talking about salary, you're talking about benefits. Now you're talking about $100,000 anyway, because a fully benefited position is going to be approximately $80,000 to $90,000. For a full-time city employee with a full benefit package. So I understand community concern. I get it. This is their tax money. But it's going to enhance our community in a way that will positively impact it for years to come. And there will be mistakes made along the way because it's new. And I think that this revamping and really looking at things holistically, taking what the constituents are saying that are not in favor of it and actually listening to what they're saying and capitalize that and then adjust it so that we're meeting the needs of our community, I think is really profound and will make a lasting impact. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Martin, I'm gonna jump by Missy for a minute, let you go. You haven't said nothing.
Okay, thank you. I want to support what Councilman Cox has just stated. You know, I think that it's very important that we recognize the difference between a $25,000 quarter budget versus a $25,000 quarter salary. I think there's a huge difference there. There's things that go along with the different projects they're trying to get done that needs the funding there. And I just think that the process is going forward. I think that we are starting to see the benefits of that. And I look at other organizations that have come up with a full-time administrator for their 501c3, and what a difference that makes. You know, it just makes the whole project come alive versus just, you know, struggling from day to day, getting, you know, the part-time or the volunteer workers, you know, they can only spend so much time. But if you want things to go forward and go forward in a good manner, you've got to put the time and the effort into it. So I guess that's where I'm at.
I got Missy first.
So I wanted to clarify, likewise, I hear the community loves the things that are happening with it. It's almost like it's working in detriment to this idea because folks are saying, well, it's working really well. So there are good things are happening. So, so why is an FTE needed to help with that? That's again, more education for that. I think what I would suggest, and I don't know if we're ready for amendment, but the idea of striking number 1 from this point. Shar, you've mentioned that you have a budget amendment for our next meeting. Oh, from last year. Okay, got it. I mean, could we propose a budget amendment following what Councilwoman Stubble has proposed, that we provide funding from city budget? And if each of us sent independently to Shari, so it's not a public meeting, what we thought an appropriate dollar amount was from the city to enhance Lita's line item, not for salary, but for operational expenditures.
You would also have to include which department you were gonna cut to make that happen. Because right now we have a balanced budget for 2024. So
Right.
if you decide to give $100,000 out of a city budget, you need to decide which department you're gonna cut from to make that happen.
Right, we do have the additional funds essentially parked in the replacement line item, is that correct? Where we put our additional,
Well, this year, the 300,000 will probably just go to your regular surplus, because if you want to maintain the 50% of your total revenue for the year is in undesignated funds, we'll need about 240 to be about $3 million, to have a $3 million surplus in undesignated.
okay,
So I would probably suggest that you let that roll over to your undesignated, and we not roll that into the equipment maintenance fund this year, just so we can have our undesignated reserves sitting at about 3 million.
okay.
One thing I did pull up the ballot language, Josh, And it just reads that it's for economic development, shall be defined as any project that retains or increased employment and or results in net gain of money into the community.
Right, so how is that not
That-
gaining employment?
Yeah, that's anyone's interpretation of
Right,
economic
I was
development.
just told how many times that it wasn't salary. So it's a budget, correct? So that's not economic development, that's money going to a budget,
Well,
not a
that,
salary. So where's the money gonna go? The 25,000 a quarter, where is that money gonna go? How is that gonna be spent on a economic LEDA budget? How's the money gonna be spent to operate a budget?
We're gonna establish a budget if we get the money. Right now, our budget's about $13,000 annually.
Okay,
That's not enough to support a position. It's not enough to support advertising. And there's a lot more that goes in with the funding. As Missy said, it's not $100,000 salary. That's to fund an entire position and all that it entails and all the advertising that goes along with it, all the travel, all the.
I thought you said you were gonna hire somebody to come in here like once every 6 months to.
No, so that would be to administer a program that business council would send in somebody to just do that community review. But that person would need to be overseen by an administrative staff.
Okay.
So it's to fund our entire budget and it's not, we haven't come up with a budget because if we're not going to get the funding, we have other things we can spend our time on. But we have discussed envisioning in a position that's probably about 3/4 time and probably depending on if we have to go salary versus contractor at this point, probably we kind of ballparked it somewhere in the $40,000 to $60,000 to support that.
I'm just trying to figure out, it's kind of like Missy was saying that, and Miss Cox, we were getting a lot of positive feedback. Why do we need to change now? If everything is operating smoothly now and people are happy with what you guys are doing, why do we need to pay 25,000 a quarter to make the same thing happen?
Well, this is a different conversation than we've had the last few meetings. I've been sitting here because I've been taking flack about people that don't like the program and the way it's going. Okay, so
Okay.
there we have an example. And, some of the feedback that I've gotten is, we're taking 75% of these tax or 70% of these tax dollars and it's going to projects for individual community members, so private individuals. The question really in our mind is, where do you want the funds to go? Do you want it to go to private members of the community? Or do you want it to go to your designated economic development organization to do community-wide projects and projects that benefit the entire community? That's where we see a value, and it's a relatively small value. It's less than 20% of the taxes collected on a quarterly basis. Right now, we're sticking $140,000 to $150,000 in community members' pockets, and we're just asking to pull that back and put it towards something that benefits the entire community. We thought it was a brilliant idea based on some of the feedback we've gotten. But I think the question that I just asked, that's the one you need to ask yourself. Where do you want to see the funds go and how do you want to see the funds spent? This is a perfect example of an economic development project that we believe the tax dollars qualify for. Why do you want to use your general fund to pay for that when you already have a tax amount there to pay for it? And if the tax doesn't get renewed, it goes away for us too. I mean, it gives whoever we do hire the incentive to be the champion to get this thing passed and keep it going in our community. So to us, it's a great idea. Obviously y'all may have some different ideas. But if you want to continue the program as is and continue giving 75% of this tax collection to individuals within the community and not focus on community-wide projects, we can certainly go that route as well. So.
Okay. Can we move on to item 2, 3, and 4 and then come back and discuss them all together, vote on them? Is we here for a vote?
Mayor, it's just, could we vote on these separately? Or at least this one pulled from the other three? It feels like it's entirely different from the actual lift model
Let's-
recommendations.
Let's take a break and pull it from the other 3. Let's talk about the other 3.
And then we'll return to discussion on
And
this one.
return to discussion on this.
Okay.
Let people think about it a few minutes. Okay, item 2, Eric, you want to read it?
Yeah, so items 2 through 4, just
You're
a little
right.
bit of background. So this is going to deal with eligibility for the LIFT program. and how the scoring works. That's what we're adjusting. We're not adjusting the scoring system. We still believe that works appropriately. But this will change how people can get funding. So item number 2, LEADA recommends the lift applications receiving less than a 50% score by the lift committee not be eligible for funding. This will prevent funding a project that cannot score at least half of the available points in the scoring rubric. We have had in the past projects funded that only scored 25 out of a possible 100 score. And we felt like projects that scored that low probably shouldn't be getting funded because they're probably getting scored that low because they don't meet the economic objectives that the tax was really designed for. You want me to read 2, 3, and 4 and y'all
Yeah,
take
go
all that
ahead.
in together? Okay,
I think we can go ahead.
because they do kind of work a little
They
bit.
do.
So that's a scoring piece. So that's on the back end. That doesn't affect anybody's eligibility. Item number 3, LEADA recommends that lift applications that request funds of 15,000 or less be advanced up one level in the scoring matrix. This will reward applicants for requesting smaller amounts and allow for funding of more applications. This would not apply to applicants that initially scored less than 50%. So if we pass that second rule, if they score 25, but they ask for 10,000, they wouldn't bump into 50 and get awarded. So they still score low enough, they wouldn't be eligible. We want to encourage people to apply for less dollars. We don't, we've gotten the feedback from the community. We've gotten it from you guys. We actually, a lot of us in the boardrooms see it as well. We want to see smaller awards that bring a bigger benefit. So we felt like this was a good way to do that. It doesn't prevent anybody from asking for $5 million. But if they do, they know their score is going to sit where it sits. So, but if a small organization that's putting on a good event that's bringing to the community and they just need $5,000 to help them advertise or something, we want to be able to reward somebody like that. So that's item 3. And then item 4, LEADA recommends that lift applications of more than $50,000 be limited to $50,000 in funding unless their application scores 100%. We've discussed in multiple work sessions this idea of capping funding, but LEADA's reluctant to do that because what if we get a really good project that everybody can stand behind? This will allow us to do that. We've had very few applications that have scored 100%, and even fewer that asked for more than 50,000. So we felt like it was a good way, like a medium of the road. It's not going to prevent people from applying for more money, but realize that they will be capped unless their project is really, really good. I think that was it. Those are the 3.
Those are the 3. Very good job. I think that's what, from what I get, I think that's what the council was asking for. So questions on 2, 3, and 4, they all tie together.
Mayor,
Go ahead.
thank you. I don't have a
Absolutely.
question. Thank you. I'd second what you just said, Mayor. Mr. Andrews, I think this reflects clearly that you've heard a variety of our concerns and really crafted solutions that meet them. So thank you. I support all 3 of these. And I had reservations in the past about having a cap, but I think that the exception you've put in here to allow for those really high quality applications and high impact applications makes me more comfortable with that cap. So yeah, I think you've heard our concerns. I think at times our concerns probably have been really varied. And so it's been probably hard for you to get to a point, but it looks like you've hit the nail on the head here in terms of incentivizing smaller businesses, allowing really high quality, high impact applications to receive higher amounts of funding if they get to that level, and making sure that we're funding groups that or funding applications that have high quality applications with that 50% or above on the score. So thank you. Well done. I think that's probably not been an easy job given the amount of discussions we've had that you've been taking into craft these. So thank you.
Councilman White.
Thank you, Mayor. I echo that. Really nice job herding the cats with all the varied perspectives we had. What Councilwoman Stubble just said, and I particularly like in your 3rd recommendation there, I think that will really go a long way for helping the primary dollar events and the special events that various groups in town host. And that seems like a great way to provide support for them. So thank you for that, but for all of these, it seems great. And likewise, that concept of how to threading that needle about having a cap that's not in any way punitive, but really holds folks to an exceptional level. I thought that's a very creative and appropriate solution.
Okay. Else on 2, 3, and 4?
You know, there's no sense just rehashing everything. I like the comments that's been made here, so.
Yes.
Great.
Can I get a motion on 2, 3, and 4 to adopt those
So moved.
recommendations? A second.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Larson, second by Councilman Cox to adopt 2, 3, and 4 on the change from the lift committee and Lita. Call for the question. Councilman Jehan.
Yes.
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 Yes, okay. Moving back to item number 1.
Mayor, I move that we recommend passive item number 1.
Need a second.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Larson to approve item number 1, second by Councilman Cox. Call for the question. Councilman Larson.
Yes.
Oh, discussion. You got more discussion?
I do,
Okay,
Mr. Mayor, thank you.
My bad.
Yeah, I think my mind hasn't been changed on this, but I don't want us to get too stymied that that maybe it'd be difficult to do a budget amendment now. I think that I want us to consider this possibly for the next fiscal year. I want this to be debated. I think it's coming out of the city general fund at the right time, not tonight. My questions, I think, to clarify some of my thinking on this, Mr. Andrews, let me back up. I think what's informing some of my discomfort here is having sat on a variety of 501c3 boards, all volunteer driven, often struggling, right, to find those operating funds. That staff do make a huge difference. Councilman Larson, you're correct about that. I agree with all of this. And having sat on those boards, I know the fiduciary responsibility those boards have to fundraise. So I'm curious what plan B Lita has to either fundraise for this budget if it's not approved by the city from either lift or general fund down the road. What is your fundraising plan? Is there a way that you could meet us in the middle, or we look for an allocation from the general fund, but Lita is fundraising for half of this operating budget? So yeah, could you fill us in about fundraising ideas that you have other than asking us for it?
Yeah, and that's kind of part of, having a staff that would help us do that. So there's a lot of economic development grants out there. But the majority of them require somebody to be able to administer them, to apply for them. And so we have some ideas. Sarah Hamlin, our president, has been looking and has looked into several that she's brought up. So there's a lot of grants that we're looking at. There's a lot at the federal level. There's a lot at the state level. We have looked at that. We have discussed potentially in the future, asking the city for allocation out of the general fund. But we don't want to take that approach right now, because we think if we do our due diligence and hire the right person, then we can have that person help us continue to have this tax passed. So the idea, hopefully one day, is to be self-sufficient. We do have property to lease out at Enterprise Park. Like I said, we do have one of those parcels leased out that provides some income. If we were able to develop that park, it would probably fund our organization by itself. So, and that's, that's one of the things we want to get done. So we just don't have the manpower to do it. We don't have the time. We don't have the resources, and we definitely don't have the requirements to meet some of the grants that would help us move that along.
Mr. Mayor, may I do a follow-up too?
Go ahead.
Thank you. That's helpful. Thanks. I'm also curious about the board capacity. Can you tell me how many board members you have and what your bylaws allow for?
We currently have 7 board members. So we had some turnover over the past couple of years. And so currently we have 7, and we've amended our bylaws to allow for a majority of those 7 to be a quorum. And we're not actively pursuing new members until we get a plan put in place. So,
Like
Kind
a
of-
strategic vision, a strategic plan.
yeah, our vision would be a full board of 12. I think we allow up to 13.
Okay.
So, but 12 with one trying to stay open for the perfect person if they ever show up.
I have a question for you. I just hate giving money out to just people to spend willy-nilly and not get be productive about it. There's 2 more quarters, am I right? This go around. For the 23, you got this quarter and another one. For 23, there's 2. You can still award 3. So if we awarded you on stipulations for the next 2 quarters, that's 50,000. You come back and show us what you're doing with it. To ask for that, the rest of it. It gives you a chance to have some funding, get somebody started. And I think you're gonna have more buy-in if you're gonna work hard to spend that money the proper way than somebody just coming in. So I'm just trying to help you get your funding as well, but because I do think economic development is very important in our community. But to give tax dollars out there, and I want a return back in the next 6 months of where we're at, what we've done, and how this money was spent, not just on wages. Does that sound fair?
My only hesitation to that would be, it's gonna be hard to find somebody knowing that they only have 6 months and
Yeah,
not even
it's-
6 months.
It's
I mean,
it's gonna be hard to find somebody to come in for a year and we lose the tax.
yeah, but it's
know what
easier to
their
get
job-
somebody that has 18 months to fight for for their position over 6. That's
I'm just
just
trying
how I
to
see
think,
it.
you know.
Yeah, no, and I
there's a
understand
way
that.
To come back and say, this is what we've done, to show us, show the council that.
Right.
They are working. And I think when you put the administrator in there. You know, that's. As Josh and these guys are thinking, you're gonna hire a full-time administrator.
Yeah.
Then I know you can't,
When,
it won't be a part-time if you're using the funds elsewhere to
right.
bring in economic development also.
Yeah, well, and that's the other part of this is, so I'm not asking for funding until the next quarter, so it wouldn't come out of this current quarter. So we wouldn't receive funding until the beginning of the 4th quarter. And we can't afford to hire somebody before we receive funding. So we're probably not looking at hiring anybody till later in the year. Like, I would say October, November at the earliest, if we find the right person. Because we would, even if you pass this today, we wouldn't see that allocation until October.
Go ahead, John.
No. No, not yet. No, right now it's securing the funding to be able to define the role and then go find the right person for it. We want to do it the right way. We're not finding somebody and then trying to figure out a way to fund them. Yeah, no, not to my recollection. We have not discussed anybody at a meeting. It's right now, it's an idea that we want to push forward. But we want to do it the right way and not go look for somebody. That's where, right, we feel like that was a mistake the last time where we had somebody volunteer to do this. And then try to go get funding. So we want to get the funding and do it the right way, define the position, the projects we want to see completed and go find the right person to do that.
Well, for the question. Okay, I got a motion in a second. We'll call for the question. Councilman Larson.
Yes.
No.
No,
Yes.
No,
I got told twice that it was just budget stuff and it wasn't a position, and now I'm hearing it's a position. No.
Tough road. Huh? 2-4. Okay. Yes, move forward. I do want to report back on how things are going and where this money is going to.
Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I believe that the vote failed.
Oh, it failed?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm ready to cancel the meeting. All right,
Thank you, Eric.
thank you, Eric. Moving on, approval of 23.05 Farber Edition minor plat, 552 Ready, Regine.
Thank you, Mayor. This is in the 500 block of Amaretti. They're taking one large lot and breaking it into 2 separate lots. And the Planning Commission and city staff have both recommended approval of this plat.
questions for that?
The only question I had is we did have public comment on this, correct?
And reportedly, that's on the next agenda item.
Okay, thank you.
59.
Oh, thank you.
Can I get a motion? On the Farborough addition,
So moved.
a second,
Second.
a motion by Councilman Hahn, second by Councilman Larson to approve. S 23.5 Farborough addition, minor plant. Call for the question, Councilman Jay Hahn.
Yes.
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 Yes. The approval of S 23.06 Guston addition, minor plat, 859 Amaretti. Regine.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the plat that received the public comment tonight, and it is also taking one large lot that used to have 5 manufactured houses on it, turning it into 2 lots for both of them are reportedly going to have multifamily housing on them, which is allowed in R3. And if you have any questions on either the public comments or anything that came up, I'd be happy to answer those.
Questions, Councilman White.
Thank you, Mayor. Not so much questions, but in response to the comment submitted. Certainly appreciate the concerns broached by Ms. Averill on that. However, in terms of an HOA, that's a private entity. We have no jurisdiction in telling a HOA what to include, not to include, how to manage their business. They're a private entity and we don't get involved with that appropriately so. And in terms of rezoning a lot, there's 2 ways to do that, either by the owner who makes that request or petition by neighbors in that 400-foot district for that. So again, appreciate that an individual has asked for it to be rezoned, but those are the only 2 methods to change how the zoning is.
Any other questions? Since there is none, can I get a motion? To approve S 23.06, that's an addition, minor plat.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
A motion by Councilman Cox, that's by Councilwoman Stubble. To approve. The best in addition, minor plat. I'll call for the question, Councilman Jay Hahn.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, moving on to item D. Authorize mayor to sign amendment to attachment D, non-recourse promissory note for the Lander Chamber and Visitor Center in the sum of $194,316. Regine or Shari?
Shari elected me. So we get a request from the Wyoming Business Council as they were going through their operational processes. They wanted to change this in the number of days in a year. And it doesn't change the amount of the loan. All it does is change the number of days for attachment D. This agreement was signed 5 years ago when the chamber was built. So they are just changing their, I don't know how to say it, sorry, the way they calculate our interest for the loan. It does not change payments and it doesn't change the total amount of the loan.
I think for some reason, the first note was written on a 360 day instead of 365 day. I'm not sure why, but that's what they're fixing. It doesn't change the amount. The chamber still pays us, and then we turn the money over to the Wyoming Business Council for the loan, but they change the number, the 365.
They didn't have any idea how many days were in a year back here.
I was hoping he was.
Okay.
2024 is a leap year, so do we need to?
Okay, can I get a motion?
Yep.
Mary,
Moved.
Second,
second.
motion by Councilman Larson, second by Councilwoman Stubble. Gonna call for the question. Councilman Larson.
Yes.
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 Yes. Moving on to item E. Approve resolution 1298 amending salary structure within the city of Lander. Shari.
I mean, this was actually my fault because the last time that we did it in the prior year, we amended the schedule at the same time we approved the budget while it was still fresh in everybody's mind what we gave for cost of living raises. So all this does is make it so that the first step and the last step get increased by what you gave as a cost of living. If we didn't do this, then we'd always be changing job descriptions, regrading people. And that's how our first wage and grade scale kind of got out of whack, is we never adjusted it every time we gave a raise. So this just makes it in line with what you gave as a COLA raise for this next budget year.
Questions?
So moved.
Second,
Motion by Councilman Han to approve it, second by Councilman White. Approving resolution 1298. Call for the question, Councilman Larson.
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
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 Yes. Item F. Approval of resolution 1297, authorizing submission of an application for the state loan and investment board. A loan through the state revolving fund on behalf of the governing body of the city of Lander. Discussion? Is there any kind of motion?
so moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilwoman White, second by Councilwoman Cox to approve resolution 1297. Any other questions or concerns real quick?
No, Mr. Mayor, may I?
You may.
Thank you. I think, Lance, you mentioned, right, where there's not a lot of discussion on this. I think it's a testament to the preparation and the long discussions you've had with us, materials you presented. So at the risk of being redundant to what I stated at the public hearing, this is, forward thinking, it's long-term thinking, and I'm glad to be a part of it. So thank you for putting together such a astounding package for the improvements to our town and to benefit our residents.
Call for the question, Councilman Larson.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
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 Yes. Moving on to item G. Approval of correction, resolution 1292, amending resolution 1248, fee and utility rates for the water and wastewater services. Sorry.
When you approved this, we actually had a typo on the 8-inch meter. It didn't get changed and to increase by the 7%. So it's still on your original fee structure, it was 800 and some. So that just changed. That's only one line item and it's just changes the typo to the $1,046.86, which only affects one customer.
Right, very bottom.
Mayor, I move approval, and thanks for catching it, Shari.
I get a second.
second,
A motion by Councilwoman Stubble to approve it, and second by Councilwoman White to approve corrections on 1292, amending resolutions 1248. Call for the question, Councilman Han.
Yes.
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 yes,
Yes.
Yes. Moving on to item H, authorized mayor to sign Roadhouse Construction Inc. change order number 10 for Maven Outdoor Equipment Company Headquarters project, increasing the contract sum $1,834. Lance.
Yes, Mayor and Council, a very minor last change order for the project, and then where we are in the project is it's currently being advertised. It's being called complete. If it passes the 41-day advertisement, you'll be asked next month to accept the project and then release the final retainage. So we're at the very end. This is it. So there won't be a number 11 if you approve 10. So
Can I get a motion to approve change order number 10 for the Maven project?
So moved.
A second.
Second, but I'll miss
Motion.
seeing them on the agenda.
So got a motion by Councilman Cox, second by Councilwoman Stubble. Approving joint change order number 10 for the Maven Outdoor Equipment Company. Call for the question, Councilman Larson.
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
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 Yes. Moving on to item I, authorized mayor to sign Lander Municipal Hangar, Airport Hangar Space. Land and lease agreement for space number 407 with Stephen and Sarah Hefty. Regine.
Thank you, Mayor. Chris couldn't make it tonight, so he wanted me to tell you that we have the purchase order, we have the insurance, and everything is in order to sign this agreement. These are the standard FAA agreements that are used for every hangar, and Anna has reviewed the language.
Can I get a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second,
A motion by Councilman Hahn, second by Councilman Cox. To authorize mayor to sign Lander Municipal Hangar, Airport Hangar Space Land Lease Agreement. Space number 407. Call for the question. Councilman Hahn.
Yes.
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 Yes. Moving on to item J, authorize the mayor to sign an easement and right of way deed with Artery Christina L. Revocable Trust and City of Lander. Lance.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is an access and utility easement that's off the Stewart Pond Road back into Middle Fork Lane. And so we have some issues down there with the 10-inch ductile iron line that people have built over the top of, looking for reroute potential and locations, as well as potential property owners who are interested in connections for future to our water main. And so if Middle Fork ever became part of the city, it would need two accesses. It's a very difficult road to get into. This potentially could create a second access as well as be used for utilities. So with that, there's a tap that we're giving for this easement is the agreement if you guys approve it tonight. So it'd be a good thing for the city if we were to gain that access and be able to install utilities there in the future.
Questions? There is none. Can I get a,
Move to approve.
thank you.
Second.
Second, that's second over here. Motion by Councilman Larson, second by Jay Hahn. To authorize mayor to sign the easement right away with Artery Christina Revoke Trust City of Lander. Call for the question, Councilman Hahn.
Yes.
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 Yes. Item K, authorize mayor to sign June 30th, 2023, year-end engagement letter with Summit West CPA Group PC for the audit services. Sorry.
This is the engagement letter for this tax return, the low price of 68,000 to 74,500. We paid 64,000 last year. We're kind of at the mercy of this because there's only so many people have left auditing. They actually turned down 74 engagements. And people are having to go out of state. So I think next year we'll set out to rebid it again, which I don't know. I go back and forth on doing that just because we got a spot with this one and they're turning down back so many audits. That most people, Riverton's not getting theirs done in the state, they're getting it done out of Utah. So then you have the travel costs that increase even that because you have to pay for them to travel up here to do their testing and their paperwork.
Questions? None? Can I get a motion?
Authorization.
Yeah, second.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Stubble, second by Councilman Cox. Call for the question, Councilman Hahn.
Yes.
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 Yes. Moving on to item L. Appoint Judy Legursky to the Housing Authority Board for the present to 2024, December 2024. Can I get a motion or a second? You want to talk, Regine?
So moved.
That motion by Councilman Hahn.
I'm right.
Can I get a second? Can I get a second?
I like
She'll be
you.
great. She'll be I great. do.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Motion by Councilman Hahn, second by Councilman Cox. To Judy Legursky to the Housing Board. I'm call for a question, Councilman Larson.
Yes.
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 Yes. Item M, appoint Dean McKee to the Housing Authority Board for a full term, January 24 to December 27. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
A motion by Councilman Larson, second by Councilman Stubble to move Dean McKee, appoint Dean McKee to the Housing Authority. Call for the question, Councilman Larson.
Yes.
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 Yes, okay. Moving on, we need a motion to go into executive session.
Move to adjourn to executive session.
I get a second.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman White, second by Councilman Stubble. Move to executive session. Going to call for the question. Councilman Hahn.
Yes.
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 Yes. Move to executive session. Huh? Yeah, well,
I bond.
I bond.
There's a second. We have to. That was kind of odd, but it was done that way.
I didn't get
The
it.
second one changed. The new business and then authorized release while claims.
Oh, okay.
So we do need that.
Yeah, we need to come back in. I'm following the directions.
Laura's gonna come up here, and give the rest of them.
Oh.
Look at that.
But even if not this week, maybe next month.
Oh, sorry, Wednesday night.
Yes, tomorrow.
Here?
It's up at Maven.
Yeah. I'll either email or do that.
Yeah.
I want to clarify, what do we do for this one? Ready? Mayor?
Yes.
Mayor, I move we exit executive session.
I got a motion to come out of executive session. Need a second.
Second.
Call for the question, Council Larson.
Yes.
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 Yeah, let me put my glasses on. Okay, next on our list is item A. Authorizing mayor to sign a release of all claims with High Bond LLC.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
and motion by Councilman White, second by Councilman Hahn. Gonna call for the question. Councilman Larson.
Yes.
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 Yes. Need a motion to adjourn if you guys are done.
Move to adjourn?
Get a
Second.
The motion, from Councilman White, second from Councilman Hahn. And call for the question, Councilman Jay Hahn.
Yes.
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 Yes, meeting is adjourned. Let's go home. Thank you, guys.